All right. Welcome everybody. Thanks for checking out our latest knowledge sharing video from the track program. My name's Karen. I'm with the Association of Nova Scotia Museums, and today joining me is Angie McIsaac from the Strait Area Museum in Port Hastings. Before we get rolling, as always, we like to acknowledge that we are coming to you from Mi'kma'ki, the ancestral and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people, whose ancestors have lived here since time immemorial. And on behalf of my family, that's been here for far less time, I want to say a huge thank you for sharing the beautiful land with us, because we are so, so very grateful that we get to call this home too. Um, on that note, I'm going to toss this over to Angie to introduce herself, and then we're going to have a conversation about some community partnerships.
Hello, everyone. I'll tell you a little bit about our museum first. So we are a smaller community museum based mostly around the Strait of Canso and the Canso Causeway. We have an artisan shop within our building that has probably 80 different artisan items, people selling different items within our shop. We have a space in our museum that's a community room, and we use it everything from Kaylee's to weekly coffee clubs to if anyone wants to teach a lesson, anything at all, it's open for use for our community. And we also have two small ice cream shops that we run seasonally in the area. So we are busy. So last summer we had probably 12 people hired between both shops, ice cream barn, museum, and community room. So we did have a busy year. So
Wow, that's very
then
busy.
yeah, we've been crazy. Don't realize it until you start doing FT4s as to how many employees you really have and how much work it really is. So, but it's been fun. So we are growing. So when I started here, we started with 3 summer students and one part-time person in the ice cream barn and one full-time, but just the 2 months. So we've grown quite a bit over the last 5 or 6 years. So it's been busy.
Mhm. Cool. So one thing I know we've talked, oh gosh, Angie, I don't know how many times, but we've talked about that community growth you've experienced and like the growth within, your board and organization as a whole, how you've stayed connected with your students. Like your relationships are key,
Yeah,
I would say, right?
absolutely.
Um, and part of why we wanted to talk today is because they end up having such a good impact on your community as a whole. So I'd love to hear about a particular partnership that you have that you are especially proud of. Tell us a bit about that and how did it come to be?
The Probably the partnership that we have the most relationship with would be our local fire departments, Port Hastings Fire Department here, which is right next door. They have always been, willing to help. We, could borrow something back and forth. But I guess a year and a half ago, almost 2 years ago, our fire alarm started going off. Middle of the night, didn't matter, everything, and I was trying to figure out why they're going off. I'd have to come down, meet the fire department because they're wired directly that they get a call out when it's a fire alarm. So they
Mm.
come in, search the building. They've done it 3 or 4 times, and turns out it was humidity levels was having problems with the air conditioners to keep humidity stable. So lo and behold, the whole team with fire trucks and everything came landing too many times at my door here. I felt guilty.
Right.
Um, I got them out of bed many times to come check my building to make sure the roof wasn't burning in wires somewhere. So I
Mhm.
felt guilty. So they needed help and we needed help. So we gave back to them and we're still doing it. We have three volunteers a week that'll go help them with their bingos because they were struggling as well. So over the last year and a half, we've been at bingo every week to help them with at least 3 volunteers. And in turn, it grew, the relationship between us, and they would absolutely do anything for us because we're giving help to them. So I think the partnership started, by chance, but continued by necessity, and everyone here is willing to help. So the relationship started on a rocky start with something bad happening, but I think it turned into something good. The
Mm,
biggest thing with the fire department is if we have, something going on that's too big for our museum, we now can hold it in their space free of charge because we reached out, to help them when they needed it. I think museums today have to realize that it's not all about money and making capacity within your own door. It has to be reaching out to the community to show how relevant you can be and willing to help others, because museums over the years has always just been looking for handouts. Like, so I
right.
think, especially in our community, I think we feel, and we've grown because of it, the giving back for free to the community. And I think that makes them more aware how relevant we really are.
Mhm.
Um, we used to be the stagnant little museum that, was coming around either to sell tickets at your door or asking for volunteers.
Right.
So instead of us asking for volunteers, we reached out to more organizations, and in turn, it helped. Like, you don't realize how much other organizations appreciate, you know,
Mhm.
our 3 people that go up and work bingo on Thursday nights for them. They really do, and, in turn, it, makes things grow.
Mm.
So, one of the
So
big
so
events.
oh,
Go
go
ahead,
ahead.
Karen, sorry. No, you go ahead.
I was just thinking, like, some of our member museums, they might not see, like, an automatic alignment with a fire department, like, connecting in with their, their purpose or their mission or goals or whatever you wanna call it, or that the values of that organization. So how do you see what you're doing with the fire department? Like, how does that feed into your values and your purpose as an organization?
I think it all stems back to community awareness. We have to be visible. We can't
Mm,
be the little organization that's hiding in the background. We have to build the community spirit before we can, you know, build our own individual organization. Community spirit, I think, has been lost over the years. We get all involved in our own little lives, not, the community happenings. And to come
mhm,
together as a community, I think that's what we have to do. Like, um, it's almost like we have to help other people to make more people aware that we're here. That's my
right.
goal, is to make the whole community aware that there's a reason we're here, but we're also willing to help others. I think is
Yeah.
the biggest,
So
you know.
how, like, helping out with another organization's bingo and just, like, working back and forth, did that just come out of, like, the casual conversations you were having with them? Or were they, like, venting of, like, "Oh my gosh, we need help with this, we can't do it anymore," or how did that come
It,
about?
it was the last fire call that they were here at 3 o'clock in the morning. Um, I said, I felt guilty because I got,
Yeah.
12 men out of bed, down here with fire trucks, lights, sirens on.
Mhm.
So it built on that, you pay me a favor, I pay you a favor, is what
Right. Okay.
it came down to. But because of that, over the course of time, they were approached to, hold an event, which was the big truck pull event at Port Hawkesbury. But they knew they couldn't handle it without, so they reached out to us. So we um, started out, we were only going to do the food, so we planned, hot dogs, hamburgers, food. Then we brought in, threw in the ice cream. So we brought freezers
Mhm.
in, at this great big event. And there was, a couple thousand people probably at the event. It was a paid event.
Wow.
But in the planning process of that big event, sitting around a table, I got roped into the take charge of the whole event. So,
Shocked.
yeah, I don't know how this happens, but it does, right? Um, but it brought together so many community organizations that were completely unrelated. Like we had, people representing there from, mechanical garages. We had town, partnerships. We had, a whole bunch of different organizations come together. So when they realized that they've never organized a people event, like people moving through, coming in the door, feeding, spot to sit,
Mhm,
watch the event. So I ended up taking the lead on the majority of it. And it in turn, yes, it was a crazy busy day. We had all kinds of volunteers from our organization, but it was many coming together to make the event happen and make it a success. So, you know, to make our museum be in a public facing place that has nothing to do with what we were looking at, in turn helped us increase capacity, increase awareness. Um, it absolutely helped. Did we
mhm,
benefit from the day? Yes, we came out ahead. Like we made money on the event. Other partners made money as well for volunteer organizations,
mhm.
but it was the awareness as to how many people were reached doing something completely unrelated, but in turn brought us back more people that were willing to help, volunteers in our own museum. Like it really, really made a difference in our community for the strange partnership that we created with with this.
Right. So, like, connecting in with people who maybe wouldn't necessarily have connected with a museum in another way.
Absolutely.
Mm,
Absolutely.
hmm,
Um, you know, they're on a weekly night when we go to bingo, they know that, all our people are from the museum. So
right.
they're asking questions, they're asking things going on, they're, looking for our summer schedule, they're, like for
Okay,
courses. Like it's creating the awareness within the community that wasn't there before, is what I think this partnership has helped with.
interesting.
So it's getting the
Did you
buy-in from the community.
Yeah, that sounds like, I mean, it's person to person advertising, kind of, right?
Absolutely.
Like,
Yes.
have you ever done anything like that before, or is this sort of new territory?
Nothing that was so unrelated. Like we built,
Okay,
other partnerships where we, in the town of Port Hawkesbury, we held the weekly Kayleys. So it's
right.
a different group of people that would come to this event than it was to the other truck pulls. So I think it
Mhm.
was reaching out and, grabbing more people that would normally not even think, you
Mm,
know, about a museum.
yeah,
So
that's cool.
mhm.
Did you like, when you were sort of figuring all of this out with the fire department, did you guys sit down and, like, establish any kind of um, goals for working together? Was it just kept like really casual of like, nope, this is something we can help you with and we'll just hope it goes well? Like how did
We
you, I guess, figure it out?
sat down almost weekly around a table, m basically assigning tasks, assigning jobs, figuring out, logistics of who could handle this, who could handle that. Um,
Hmm.
it was a mutual around the table with us taking, I guess, almost the lead in the organizational skills of it. So
Mm,
we were the ones assigning who would be good there, what do we need here, what can we do?
hmm.
And the partnership, because of it, we're doing it again this year. It'll make us some money, but it'll create more awareness. And, you learn from your mistakes. Have we had mistakes in doing this? Yes. You know, we're going to, make it bigger and better for next year. And I think that's what museums have to do. Is look at what past that year, let's create something. Let's go work on it.
Mm, that's really cool. Um, I can totally see you're such a good organizer. I can absolutely see that that someone would defer, or another group would defer to you and be like, all right, you've got a good head on your shoulders and you can sort all of these details out. That's so critical to have somebody who
And I had
is very
another
organized.
it's funny, within the past 2 weeks, I had another organization reached out, um, to use the same location within the town for a completely different event, but they didn't call the fire department. They reached out directly to me
Oh,
because
interesting.
they saw
They
me run
saw the
around like a
involvement.
crazy, yes, they saw me running like a
Right.
crazy person at the organization of the event and
Mhm.
knew that I was the one, bossing people around. Is that the right word?
You never.
No.
Oh,
But
that's
yeah,
cool.
the awareness is there. The awareness is in the
Yeah.
community now, that we pulled it off. So
Right.
that's huge.
Absolutely.
Mhm,
That is huge.
mhm.
So, would you say, like, in terms of relationship building within the community, that, like, that's absolutely part of your job? Do you have board members who are also like, I guess how many I'm picturing a web in my mind,
Mhm.
right? Like, how many strands are going out? Is this like Angie's going out and that's part of like that's one of the hats that she wears versus, okay, anybody who's on the board, that's part
I
of
think
their
it's I
responsibility.
think it's a hat that we all share. So I think we're
Okay.
always on the look or the reach out or somehow to get it into conversation with the people we meet at the grocery store. Um,
Mhm.
Not that we need help, but what can we do for you? So
Mm,
it works in all directions. But I think my role is probably the biggest front and center in that,
right.
in advocating for the museum as to what we can accomplish and what we can do for you as a person or a visitor or you know we're trying to focus on what we can give to people, not what that they need to come volunteer for 6 hours. We've changed our whole perspective of our
Mm.
outreach, I guess.
I think that's like thinking of traditional roles
Mhm,
of or traditional approaches that museums have taken. I think that is like a big shift, right? So again, I can like conversations I've had with some of our members, I can imagine some people saying like, well, we don't have the capacity to help,
mhm,
or like that would be a really maybe risky conversation to have to say how can we help you? Because what if we can't actually fulfill
mhm.
the request or the comments that we're hearing? So what would you say to people that had those concerns?
I think and with museums, it's hard because most of our small little community museums are short season. We only have
Yeah,
staff certain times. We only have volunteers that can give X amount of hours. I think that the easiest answer to that one is you can only give what you can, yes,
yeah.
but if you can do something for more than one organization at the same time, you'll benefit yourself as well as others. I think it's the
Mm,
only way to open the eyes of other community members to want to be part of our team. They want to spend time with us, not that they want to be loaded with too much work. And
yeah.
just remember, any volunteer only likes to volunteer on things that they enjoy. You know, if you know one of your people that could be a volunteer could help another organization or reach out, then you got to put the key people in the right spots.
Mhm.
You know, that's probably the
Yeah.
biggest. Um, do I spend too much time volunteering? Yes, yes, I do. But you do what you can, and when people appreciate it and other organizations appreciate it, it comes back for you tenfold. It really, really does.
Mm. Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. I think like there's something about tempering expectations too. Like thinking
mhm,
back to when were going around the province and we had those unlocking gatherings and we
mhm,
always started off by saying to people like this is day one of our conversation and our relationship building and we're a small organization so
mhm.
we recognize that things aren't going to change overnight or in certain things we can't
Absolutely.
hit the ground running but I know we definitely found, that people really appreciated that kind of, like, openness and honesty of, like, "Hey, here's who we are and here's where we're at, but we wanna work together, and let's see what opportunities might exist." And then all of a sudden it's like, "Oh, okay, like, you're being real with me. That
Mhm.
means I can be real and vulnerable with you
Yes.
too about, like, what we really need versus wouldn't it be nice if," or
Yeah.
yeah.
And I think that's completely true. And I think our focus here at the museum has changed over a little bit of time where, you know, instead of saying, "Oh, I need someone to volunteer to do this project," we're
Mhm.
going and saying, "Why don't you come for a visit? We'll stop,
Right.
let's have coffee, let's have conversation." And once you get them to be your friend and, like it's just casual, then they don't mind doing extra work. So I've been getting more people able to volunteer after I've invited them for coffee. Stop in for coffee. And
Yeah.
does it put me behind? Yeah, it puts me behind. I'll stop for 10 minutes and go visit with someone. That's why we're here.
Yeah.
Like so I think it's changed the whole way our museum runs.
Mhm.
It really does. Like I think once we get them to buy in the idea of we're not expecting miracles from them. We just
Mhm.
want them to come, enjoy their time first, and then it's like we get them to buy in. And so they're more
Yeah, yeah.
committed to us after we've given them individual time as a person. And that's all we're looking for is, people want to feel appreciated
Yeah,
and
and to feel connected, yeah.
and feel
I think that
connected.
that makes perfect sense, right? Like, if you're not building up some sort of relationship first, then you don't end up having opportunities to
Exactly.
have
Later.
conversations around, like, finding alignment or, the shared interests or values or what have you. So, yeah,
Yeah.
it makes
And
perfect sense.
it's been about the come and hang out, see what we
Mhm,
have, like let's look through these photographs and within the community itself, we've had firemen down, stop in for coffee. So they'll stop and, we'll start flipping through, photographs of, from 1960s when, this organization started and they can actually, name people in photographs, that we
right.
didn't have the information. So it comes back to us. So the time we
Yeah.
spend on people, it comes back with helping the museum. It really, really
Mm,
does. So
mhm. Do you have, like, do you see, like, a clear delineation in terms of the responsibilities that everyone is putting in? Or is it really just that, like, that relationship where you're always looking for opportunities and it's sort of, an organic kind of growth and
yeah,
development?
I think it's more of an organic. We're always looking for opportunities.
Mm,
Will we try another partnership with someone else? Absolutely. Another organization? Definitely. Um, and we're always on the lookout for new people that may want to be part of our team. But it's
mhm,
not just me, it's board members, it's key volunteers, and it's getting them fit into the right channel or right stream of what they want to do and what they like. Like if you
mhm.
don't like doing this one particular task, I'm not going to make you do it. Um, it has to be something you enjoy to get volunteers and to get, you know, people that want to help. Like it has to
Yeah.
be something enjoyable to them as an individual. So
Mm,
I think it's more of a cohesive, things may change, like let's go this
right.
direction. Like I think you have to go with the flow um, when you're, reaching into community.
Mhm, mhm.
That's my thoughts anyway. And it's working. It is within, you know,
Yeah. If
3
you
steps
had
forward.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
If you had, like, a new firefighter come in
Mhm,
who, um, maybe, like, hadn't seen this kind of a partnership, like a partnership between a museum
mhm.
and a fire station just or a department sounds different,
So
right?
awful. Mm,
Non-traditional. So if you had somebody come in or even, like, on your board, either side, I think, right? If you had to explain to someone new, "Here's how this is benefiting the community," and they're,
mhm.
like, scratching their head trying to understand it, what would you say to them? Like, what are the really obvious benefits that you're seeing?
I think the obvious benefits for both organizations and even individuals is it's creating growth. It's creating this momentum that we're moving forward and we're getting more people to be aware and excited about, things we can accomplish together because, they'll double our volunteer basis if we need them. So,
Mhm.
and they have completely different skills than some of our volunteers do. So I think it's a mutual understanding between the two organizations that, you know, we can only make ourselves better by working together. You know,
Mm,
the individual members that come and, start as a new fire person, I'm sorry, starts at the fire department. They're going, why are these people here volunteering? Because, we're not part of, that
right.
organization. Um, Once they understand it and can see it work, it's a positive and they understand it. But I
Mm,
do know that, we can rely on individual skills of all those volunteers, even if it's a one-time task that I need something accomplished. Like
mhm.
if something blew onto the roof, I could call and say, will you come down and, help me
You
fix
guys have
this board?
ladders.
Yes. And that's what it's been, like,
Yeah.
so it's sharing resources. It's definitely a benefit, you know,
Mm,
of
mhm.
having extra bodies just in case, if
Yeah.
if I had a major catastrophe here, I know I could make a phone call and say, "Come help me move this stuff out of the museum into a trailer," and I would
Right.
have, that
You'd have
backup.
bodies there. Yeah.
Yes, I would have bodies there. And that's
Yeah.
important, because of, the changing climate, the changing everything. You never
Mhm.
know what's gonna happen, and
Yeah.
would happily give up what they're doing to be here. But the
Mhm.
only reason they're happy to give it up and change their schedule to accommodate something with me is we built a trust with them. We
Right.
gave to the
Yeah.
organization, so
Yeah.
they're willing to do it back. And I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
that's, small town community, that's what it's about. And
Absolutely. Yeah.
Mhm.
Do you think have they ever done, like, that truck pull, event? Had that ever happened before, or was that the first time
Never.
for
It was brand new,
Ah,
completely brand new. So it went from developing a site completely with heavy
right.
equipment and machinery, reaching out to the right people that have it, to get them to volunteer their time, their money, their fuel
Yeah.
for, dozers and excavators to make it happen.
Yeah.
It was a reach out to many, many businesses, financial. And
Mhm.
the only thing that we asked is, we guaranteed them a little bit of social media time for their advertisements.
Right.
And we posted them all at the site, and they were more than happy um, to hand
Hmm.
over financial money to, we had to rope off the track, we had to build a track, it was,
Mhm.
you know, building stands and borrowing things, and it was a whole community event that came together for that
Wow.
one. So, and it was successful, there wasn't any complaints, a few during the day, but nothing, that wasn't just
Nothing
a
major. Yeah.
nothing major. Um,
Mhm.
I was run off my feet, I was running back and forth, because there's so many different levels of, people involved, that we had different levels of corporate sponsorship involved. We had, a
Mhm.
separate area for different things, but it was so much of a community involvement that they were willing to reach out and help. So
Yeah. That's cool.
it works. Yeah.
Very cool. So if and I always like to think, like, what are our members gonna take away from this? If you could give a list, I also love lists,
Mm.
of, like, your top lessons that you learned. I'd say both in, like, building the relationship, but also in, like, pulling off a brand new event with an organization and a fairly new partnership.
Mhm.
Like, what would some key lessons be for you there?
I've I would say probably the biggest is, um, try it. Uh, Try to build something, try to create something that's unique, that's different.
Mm,
You don't know how it's gonna turn out, but you definitely have to try it to see if it's gonna turn out for the better. I would say work with the unusual partnerships, things that aren't, normally done.
mm.
Um,
So why would you
trust
say
your
that? That's an interesting point.
Well, because it makes people more aware going, "What?" Like,
Oh,
it's
okay. Sort of like
you know what
the,
I mean?
"Huh,
It's yeah, the
okay,
moment, so that, the rest of the town's going, "They're doing what?" And,
okay."
it makes people more aware of, I don't know, increasing, public opinion of what we can do.
Mm,
I don't think people realize that, a museum can be a strong force. And we are, you know, we're in the community and we're visible in the community. I think the biggest is to make
Mhm.
yourself visible in the community.
Yeah.
Um, make your impact known, I guess is the probably the biggest. Um,
Mhm.
I would say also there's so many different personalities when you're working with a new organization. So you have to feel yourself out. You
Mhm.
don't know their capabilities until you spend some time to get to know individual people. Um, but every little bit of thing that you can do will help increase your capacity and your awareness in the community. People have to be aware we're here. And I don't think
Mm.
we've shaken that up enough in the last few years. Museums were always tucked in the corner as this quiet, little
Right.
place.
You come and visit us and yeah.
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 And if you get into the conversation of daily things, like people were talking, like, why is the museum involved? Why are these people here?
Yeah.
That's I think that's the most important thing is to do something out of your norm,
Mhm.
to get people talking. Is
Mm.
that I don't know if I answered your question, Karen, with that one for things to
No, I
take away.
think well, I think you
Oh, and
did, and I was
I've got one more. Even if your
okay.
event isn't successful financially the first year, it may be financially successful the second year. So put the time into it.
Right.
That would be another takeaway, I would say.
Yeah.
Because it was a lot of hours to make it happen. But next year it's going to be a lot less hours because it's been organized
You
and
figured it out. Yeah.
figured it out. So that'll
Yeah.
be another
Mhm. Yeah, I was
takeaway.
gonna I think you sort of, like, rolled I love, like, the takeaways kind of rolled into my what was gonna be the next question is,
Yes.
like, do you have advice for them? But I think that your lessons are like, you just rolled everything into one. So that sounds
Yeah.
fantastic.
Absolutely try it. Like it's not gonna hurt to try it.
Yeah.
So that would be my one takeaway. And once you get committed
Oh,
volunteers, you've got them. You really, really
yeah.
do. All my staff came to work that day for free. They all worked the day of the truck pulls as
Wow.
volunteers. They happily gave up their day to come out and work, and they worked hard. They were really, really hard. So the takeaway definitely is try it.
Yeah.
Um, build the unusual because it's going to come back and help you in the end. So
Mm,
that's
cool.
probably the biggest. Yeah.
I love it. It's completely something completely different from, other stories we've been hearing from
Mhm.
museums and other things that are going on. Um, yeah, I
When
love
when
the
when I presented it to the board, they were kind of, like, "What?" I had to sell it to the board,
right.
um, and that was a harder sell because they were like, "You're gonna do what?" And it's like, "Yeah, I'm gonna take everyone and, we're going in that direction." And
Mhm.
they kind of went, "What?" And they're finally, once they realized it, they said, "If you can get it done, Angie, you can get it done." And that's what we did. So I think the unusual is worth trying. So,
Mhm. Mm, cool.
yeah. So that's
Well, yeah, thank you for sharing. I love
oh,
hearing what museums are up to and the encouragement to get out of our introverted often
yes.
introverted, selves and just start having those conversations and seeing
Yeah.
what happens. I'm guessing, like, when you first started talking to the fire department, but and, like, helping it with bingo, you weren't picturing a truck pull in your future.
Absolutely. Absolutely not. Feeding 2,000 people with hot dogs and hamburgers and,
Right.
like, no, wasn't
Wasn't on the
even
radar.
no, not even close. But it was everything, the organizational part of it, they needed
Mhm.
me. So I'm glad it's going to be bigger and better the next season.
Yeah,
And that's what we're focusing on, like it's going to do us good for the next 10 years, for
very
doing
cool.
unusual. So is it a little stream of money? Yeah, it's a little stream of money. Is it more community awareness? Yes, much more
Yeah,
community awareness. So building capacity and community is where we are. We'll still struggle financially. We all do. Everyone knows that, but every little bit
yeah.
helps. So, and
Yeah.
it was fun. Wasn't hard. It was everyone left there exhausted. You know, all the ones that were staff that had volunteered for the day, they came out of there going, "Wow, that was fun." You know, like it
Mm,
was so that in itself to our key
mhm.
volunteers, it was worth it.
Yeah.
So,
Very cool.
yeah.
Cool, cool.
So,
Well, um, thank you again for sharing, my dear. That's fun to hear about, and
anytime.
thanks for seeing some showing some pictures and different things. That's really really cool. I love hearing about all these, yeah, great things museums are
It's a
doing.
fun partnership. So,
Yeah.
and that's worth it.
Yay. That's great. Well, yeah, I will let you go. Thank you again, and look forward to seeing
What else we're gonna do?
what else is coming up next? What other interesting and different partnerships and ideas you're going to come up with up there in Port Hastings?
Yep.
Sounds
Hopefully
great.
something big, right?
Yeah, absolutely. No pressure.
Thanks so much, Karen.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you, Angie.